Hey everybody, in this e-bike news video, I got some super exciting announcements that actually came out from the Lectric Ebike company about an extended range battery. And I want to talk about actually batteries in general also and safety, because it seems as though a lot of the news that I've been seeing is about fires from these batteries. And I just kind of want to go ahead and give a kind of an overview on how to kind of stay safe without making these or getting into trouble with some fire hazards that can actually happen, because there's some very specific patterns that seem to be the culprit of causing a lot of these fires. They don't happen very often, but when they do, of course, the media picks up on it, and of course e-bikes get a bad rap. It's just really unnecessary. So I want to talk about that, how you can keep safe on it, what to look out for, and then also about that really cool announcement on what it means for the industry if Lectric comes out with an announcement that has 45% more charge on the same size battery. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about is Lectric Ebikes sent out an email yesterday, and this has been big news on a lot of different outlets about their new battery that they're launching that actually comes with a 45% more capacity. So typically the Lectric Ebikes come with a 10, this is the XP 1.0 and 2.0, come with a 10 amp hour battery. And that has actually been a little small for the industry. As bigger, anybody who wants to compete with Lectric, all they did was really to say, look, you get more range, they threw a bigger battery in it. What's really interesting is that they were able to squeeze in 45% more capacity in the same size casing of these batteries that go into their old bikes. So those of us who actually love our XPs, but just we're kind of having range anxiety, we can now buy a battery that gives us the range that's competitive with everybody else out there, up to what must be almost 35 to 40 miles potentially, depending on how much you're helping the bike. Now that's a lot of range on these bikes now. So to have this size battery in an Lectric XP, we don't have to buy a new bike. Okay, so the battery does come with an extra 45% charge on it, capacity, and it does cost $500. Now the old batteries that were just the regular 10 amp hour batteries were priced at, I think, $299. So you add on $200 for an extra 40% capacity. To me, the value is there because, one, if I'm buying another battery anyway, I'll have two batteries. I can carry a second one if I need to go ahead and do a swap out. So now I've extended my range even like more than 100% at that point. That's like, it's pretty awesome. So just keep in mind, these batteries that are out there also mean that the technology for, say we have a battery like this that was 13 to already 14 amp hours. This one here is a 13 amp hour battery for another style bike that's very common, and you're able to increase this capacity without changing the size of the battery by 45%. That's huge. That's a really big deal. And this means that the technology is advancing so that we do have this ability to do that. So the bikes don't have to get larger. And for me, to have some of these larger batteries in the past, I would not be able to buy the bike because I couldn't fit in it. What it meant is the battery was so long, the seat would be extended, and I would be too short. I am super excited about what they've been able to do because everybody's going to be playing, again, another catch-up. Again, Lectric is being the innovative industry leader, coming out with some great prices on their bikes in the first place, with great bikes, great specs, and still now even greater battery range. They are really addressing the needs of what we've all been asking for. So that's great. Thank you, Lectric XP or Lectric Ebikes, for making these. You guys are just doing an awesome job in getting e-bikes into more people's hands, just like you guys wanted to. Now, I want to talk about the other subject in this video, which is really important because, like I said, every day that I'm looking at the e-bike news that I do search on, there's always front page news almost every day now about another e-bike fire caused by the batteries, mostly of the time that's been charging. And the thing is, the more I look into this, it is actually pretty evident that we are seeing very typical patterns of when these fires are actually happening. Number one, they catch on fire usually when it's actually being charged. And there are a couple of things that are actually happening is that they're finding that batteries that are actually either damaged or are off-name brands, not really actually high quality stuff, is the stuff that's actually causing the problem. So I have these battery safety tips that I want to go ahead and just kind of run down these really quickly, because these, one, maybe give some of you peace of mind, because I'm sure someone's going to talk about how safe they can be, because like I said, the headline news is kind of over exaggerating a lot of the problem. And the other thing is that if you are potentially doing something that's a dangerous practice that you didn't realize, maybe it could actually prevent a fire of your own. So first and foremost, again, buy a reputable battery as a replacement from the actual manufacturer of your bike, and even a charger. If you need to replace the charger, try to make sure that you're getting the charger that's made for that battery and from the manufacturer. A lot of our big name brand companies actually use UL labeled items, which means that they actually have a higher battery or safety standard, so that you can actually have a little more peace of mind that this is not something that is kind of put together haphazardly, that actually doesn't follow some safety rules and regulations on that. So that's one thing. Avoid the cheap unbranded stuff. I mean, it can be really tempting to see a battery at 30% less cost on Alibaba, AliExpress, even on eBay, and you don't know where the cells are. It could have been actually put together by somebody who really doesn't know what they're doing, and if they do even know what they're doing, it still just might not actually still be safe if there's no way to kind of track things down at that point. So be careful with that. That's the number one thing that is actually causing a lot of problems as well, is these batteries are just not reputable. Also, buying a reputable brand, typically you'll get actually better charge life out of your batteries. The cells are going to be usually better name brand, especially from bigger companies. They actually look for companies that are name brand cell brands like Samsung, Panasonic, LG, and these are just some of the brand names that are out there. You want to make sure you're staying with these type of batteries. The other thing is, don't charge a lot of batteries all at once. So this was actually a cause of a big fire that actually caused a boat to sink, which over a dozen people had passed away, I believe, off the coast of California. And what it was is they had too many things charging on one charger. The other thing I've been noticing is a lot of New York battery fire news is being mentioned that a lot of the housing that people are living in are so old that the wiring in their houses are actually not up to code to handle the type of charge that these batteries need. If you have multiple chargers plugged in, they take a lot of juice to charge these things up. So if you're plugging like 7 batteries in on one power strip and one outlet, that outlet might not be actually made to handle that kind of a load. So keep that in mind. If you're actually charging a lot of batteries, try not to charge too many at once, kind of like how you would be a little more careful of plugging your hair dryer, your microwave, and your maybe an oven and a cooker all at once in one outlet. Your fuse will probably blow. And so you have these opportunities to make sure that if you're overloading a circuit, it could pop a fuse. But if that's even happening, then you just kind of know. Make sure don't charge too many at one place. That's just keep that in mind. They do take a lot of juice coming through. Newer houses maybe not so bad, but some of the older places especially, you want to be careful of that. I've heard that even with Tesla cars, that were some of the issues, that some people's houses need to have upgraded in wiring, and like makes sense, right? Those things actually, you want to charge a car, that's a big vehicle that needs to be charged. E-bikes are the same. You have 4 or 5 e-bikes being charged at the same time, that's going to be an issue. Another thing you might want to have is you might want to have a fire extinguisher nearby. And now just keep in mind, lithium batteries are very, very difficult to extinguish even with a fire extinguisher. The reason why I'm saying have a fire extinguisher nearby, because if one of these happens to catch on fire, at least you can put out the fire from spreading if you can't touch the battery to get it taken out of position. So that's of where it's at the time. So a fire extinguisher nearby is always a good idea. If you can even store the battery in like a fireproof container or a fireproof cabinet, that'll be great too. That might be a little extreme for most, because these batteries, honestly, if these are name brand, they don't catch on fire very often. It's very unlikely that's going to happen, but they can. I mean, even like, remember the whole cell phone craze. A lot of cell phones, iPhones were catching on fire, or even Samsung Galaxy phones were catching on fire. Same thing, the lithium batteries. They were having issues with that. So lithium batteries do potentially have the opportunity to do that. These can become unstable. So the instability happens from damage. So if your battery drops and you have damage on your battery, just know that that is a potential for actually some of the safety of the battery not being compromised. If you have a damaged battery, I would highly suggest get it replaced. I know that it's expensive, but nonetheless, you don't want to have a fire. I mean, it's more expensive to have to replace your house. Fire departments are a great place to find out where you can actually dispose of lithium batteries, but you want to properly dispose them. Don't throw them away just in the trash. That is actually illegal in a lot of different states as well. Okay, so store your batteries out of the hot areas. Like, don't put them in places where the direct sun might be coming in on in the window and hitting them, or in places that the room will get extremely hot. You want to keep them in basically room temperature. All of my bikes, I have all of my batteries actually in the house, and even when I charge them in the house. The other thing is, you don't actually want to ever charge the batteries unattended. I know for some it's very difficult, and you might want to go to sleep because you're charging it at night. I get it. I do that same thing too, but just keep in mind, have a fire detector nearby. At least something that can potentially alert you if something were to happen with this. Again, these don't happen very often, but if you're using a charger that's not made for a battery, if you buy one off of eBay because you think it's going to quick charge it and it's not made for it, you could potentially have a lot more issues. Once a battery is fully charged, don't leave it plugged in. Now, most manufacturers will tell you that you will not be overcharging because a lot of them actually have sensors in it that will actually trickle charge or turn it off. But you don't want to leave it plugged in all the time anyway. It'll always give a trickle charge here and there. If the battery starts to go low, it detects it, and it's just better to go ahead and unplug it. Why keep it in longer? Now, every once in a while, if you use your battery often, like daily, and you're draining it, dry riding it, bring it back in, every once in a while you do want to leave it an extended period of time. Of course, still monitor it if possible, and that will actually help level out all the batteries. That's a good maintenance practice to do, maybe once every 3 months or so, depending on how often you ride. But for the most part, you don't want to ever plug it in and just leave it running. A lot of my friends actually use these timers that have a 6-hour timer on it, so automatically it just shuts off the charger for you, so they don't have to worry about it at all. I actually bought some of those chargers. Those timers. Make sure that you're using timers that are actually rated to handle the amperage that's coming through, though. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And the last thing I just want to go ahead and say is, if you have a battery and you're picking it up and I'm going to say use your senses, and I mean all 5. If you visibly see maybe some warping happening, or if you're touching it and it's exceptionally hot, unusually hot, remove it. Take it to somewhere else that's going to be safer. If you smell something burning, burnt electronics, very easy to detect. If that's coming from your battery, you might have a problem. You want to definitely go ahead and have that checked. Some of these batteries have fuses, so if the battery is not charging, check your fuse. If the fuse pops, be sure that you just don't replace it thinking it's just a fluke. You might want to check to make sure that there's no short in that. Take it to an authorized battery type place that can actually check that. This is one of those things that it might be good to consider every once in a while, getting your bike maintained to make sure that all of your electronic components are doing okay. But the other part of your senses, again, visibly checking it, smelling it, feeling it, and you can even listen. Sometimes you can actually hear sounds if the battery is making problems. If there's a popping noise or a sizzling noise, of course that's going to be an issue. That all being said, I don't want anybody to be panicking about these and being all paranoid about it. If you use these batteries, they can go up to 800 charges without any problems. Hope this is helpful. If you do find this kind of information helpful along the way, please like and subscribe. There's some really great news coming out. I have some great reviews coming out in the next few weeks as well. I'm super excited about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.